All right. Well, I love sauerkraut. I don't know what happened, but one day a light bulb went off and I just fell in love with it, and I just can't get enough of it. And it's really cool to see actually how it's made. And they actually make most of the whole world's sauerkraut in a little town not too far from here, Bear Creek, Wisconsin. Check it out. Family business. Been in the business for how long?
Well, since 1911, which is quite a long time. And we've gradually grown over those years. We now sell about 85% of the product that's made in this hemisphere. We make more sauerkraut than all of Western Europe. And in fact, I'm going over to Europe, and I know I'll get skulls and whatnot from the European manufacturers, but it's just we Americans sometimes do things bigger and better.
Who knew? In little town Wisconsin, you're making most of the world's kraut.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, but you know, we've focused on it, and we have really good growers. We have a good climate, we have good soils, and one of the keys with the growers, many of them are third, fourth, fifth generation, so it's almost in your blood. So it's, you know, I guess we've got kraut juice flowing through our veins. We'll start at the field. We have automatic harvesters that cut the cabbage in the field and load it onto a truck. Truck comes in here, weighs up, and comes behind me and dumps the cabbage into piles. We then use a skid steer or a bobcat to push it onto a conveyor into the building. The farmer, after he drops the cabbage, goes over, and there's a hopper behind me. I don't know if you can see it, but he's taking the waste leaves back to his field. So we're kind of green. We pay him to do that, and those go back to his own field to nourish the crops. It works as good fertilizer versus us just taking and putting it in a big heap in a field somewhere and it'll rot forever. Once inside the building, it's manually cored. A corkscrew type device comes down and fragments and removes part of the core. After that, it's washed again and tumbled, so some of the additional outer leaves come off. It is then inspected by people who have knives, and they look at it to make sure there are no excessive green spots on the cabbage, any bruising, things of that nature. From there, it's ready to go into the slicers, which are big revolving discs, and they make it into something all Wisconsinites know. At that point, it's coleslaw. But immediately after that, we put salt on at a rate of about 2% by weight, and then it's conveyed to the vat that we happen to be filling at that point in time.
All right, so Ryan, tell me, where are we now?
We're in our largest vat room. This is the biggest vat room in the world. We've got 25 stainless steel tanks that are 24 feet across, 32 feet deep, and each hold nearly 1,200 tons of cabbage. Wow. Which stays in those vats until it ferments and becomes sauerkraut. We then pump it out. These vats never have people in them. They're simply, it's almost like a brewery. You turn valves and the kraut comes out. When you fill them to the top, you put a plastic across and that's it. You forget about it for 5 or 6 months until such time as you're ready to actually can or bag or glass, whatever you might want to do with the kraut. But they're very labor saving, they're very sanitary, they're very clean, they're very neat, and nobody else has them. Little old Bear Creek, Wisconsin.
Okay, so tell me about this.
Well, what's happening here, the kraut is pumped, okay? And you can see it's being pumped right now, and that's a screen. So the screen is thin enough, or the water flows underneath the screen and the kraut remains. We then put it on another belt that is serrated, if you will, perforated, so that the kraut juice continues to drain out. So by the time it gets to the line, it's pretty much kraut, moist kraut, but kraut. And then the brine is recycled to pump back into the vat to remove more kraut. It's just kind of this goes round and round. You're continually putting in more, taking out more brine than you're putting in so that you start extracting the kraut. And in those vats, the bottom part up to about this high is all brine. You know, those big ones that we looked at? And you get a swirling motion. You create a slurry out of the kraut. We learned this from the paper industry. Our guys studied that. So this is very similar when it comes through here to paper that's going into a paper machine.
Really?
However, this happens to be sauerkraut going into cans, jars, bags, or whatever.
And you guys call this
the river of kraut. Yeah, we built it about 3 years ago, and it eliminates all kinds of very difficult, very, very hard work. You would have to shovel or fork an equivalent of this. You'd have to have a dozen people slaving. I mean, literally back-breaking work. So you can see that Antonio's brother here is just tickled to death. He's got the computer screen, and that's it.
High tech, huh?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
The kraut tumbles onto a conveyor, which then moves it to the bag line, the glass line, the can line, whichever line lines we happen to be filling that day. So that's all done automatically. We have equipment here from Holland, Germany, France, and Japan assisting us in the filling process. So we're pretty much international that way. A very basic process, yes, yeah. And we just have made it a process that's basic, but we run tremendous volumes. When you're talking 180,000 tons, that's a lot of product. So a lot of logistics, things coming in, cans from Baraboo, Wisconsin, salt from Kansas City, local cabbage. Our film comes from Canada, labels from Chicago, glass from Chicago and Wisconsin, caps from Montreal, Canada. It's just it's really a lot to get this all put together right here, and we're good at it. We do it, and we've got so many great people working here. That's the key. I mean, it's just for me, I should be retired, but it's just great fun to come out and hang out with everybody and make sure we're doing the right thing. We all get tickled to death when we find out a new, quick way to do something, or a different way, a better way. So it's fun. We're kind of like kids, and we really do like it.
Can you smell it? Can you smell, or do you get immune to the smell?
Well, when I get home at night, my wife can smell it. I mean, I think, I'm smelling like a rose, and I guess I smell like sauerkraut when I come in. And she doesn't wrinkle her nose. She grew up in Shiocton, and actually her uncle ran a kraut plant, and she loves it too. But I do get told to maybe leave my shoes at the door or something.